rise for the saying of the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, for public comment, we have two speakers on non-agenda items that'll come at the end of the meeting, and we don't have anyone signed up for action items this evening, so we can
go ahead.
Yep.
All right, we'll get the meeting started. I'd like to remind our guests and our neighbors that at Valparaiso Community School, or to the school board meeting, we look forward to hearing from you during the public comment. We recognize your value in public comment on educational issues and school matters. A few reminders: please come up to the podium and speak to the board. Please keep your statements to 3 minutes or less, and discussions involving personnel litigation and student discipline will not be permitted. And that's my public announcement.
Okay. On to consent agenda.
Yes. Has the board had a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Yes.
Any questions? No questions. Okay. May I have a motion?
So move.
A second.
Second. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. We also have a recommendation for employment of a candidate for a classified position pursuant to Indiana Code 2026-511.2. The reference document was in your packet. Are there any questions pertaining to that document?
I'm still not getting those attachments.
There's your little guy.
Oh, the little guy.
That'd be
Okay. Forgot about the little guy. Okay. All right.
It's always the little
All
guy that
right,
gets left behind.
Okay. All right. Good.
So no question. Any questions? No questions. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. All right, motion passes. Thank you. We're going to go on to
Financial reports.
financial reports. I'm having a tough time getting on the internet. Sorry about that. All right, Mr. Holyfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Each month, we present our financial report comparing the year-to-date revenue to the year-to-date expenditures for our tax-supported funds. Our year-to-date performance of funds report as of July 30th, 2023 shows the following. In the education fund, our revenue year-to-date is $29,487,389. In our year-to-date expenditures are $27,378,603, and revenue has exceeded expenditures by 7.7%. In our debt service fund, revenue year-to-date is $21,516,15, and year-to-date expenditures are $3,843,910. Expenditures have exceeded revenue, but all debt payments have been made for the fiscal year, and we do have an additional tax draw in December. The pension debt service, year-to-date revenue, $1,254,149. Year-to-date expenditures, $1,412,589. Expenditures have exceeded revenue, but also, again, we have made both payments on that pension debt for the fiscal year, and we will have an additional tax draw in December. And as you know, the revenue includes a $400,000 loan from the rainy day fund to the pension debt fund, which we pay back in December. The operations fund, year-to-date revenue, $10,939,888. Year-to-date expenditures, $10,695,206. Revenue has exceeded expenditures by 2.29%. We'll continue to spend that down until we receive our tax draw in December. Operating referendum. Year-to-date revenue, $2,737,881. Year-to-date expenditures, $3,262,151. Again, that'll continue to spend down until we receive our additional tax draw. Capital referendum, the revenue year-to-date is $6,339,419. Year-to-date expenditures, $5,685,000 even. And we do have the additional tax draw in December, and we also have a payment on that debt as well in December. The rainy day fund, no year-to-date revenue, and the only year-to-date expenditure is the aforementioned $400,000 loan to the pension debt fund to be paid back in December. We believe a review of the fund shows a positive financial position. If there are no questions, we ask for approval of the financial reports for July of 2023.
Board, do we have any questions on the financial reports by Mr. Holyfield?
No.
All right. May I have a motion?
I move we accept the financial report presented.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Holyfield. Okay, we're going to move on to contract considerations.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a handful for your consideration tonight. Central Elementary for an assembly performance designed to encourage student character education from Ned's Mindset Mission. District-wide, we have Perspectives LTD. It's the development implementation management of our employee assistance program and work-life services. It's for a year at a cost of $1.22 per employee per month with continual updates on our employee count. So we'll have real-time billing on that. And then with Sarkeesian Law Offices for legal services based on hours submitted for the next 12 months. At Valparaiso High School, Purdue University Northwest, these are the annual articulation agreements for Spanish for the 23-24 school year. Lakeshore Bone and Joint for athletic trainer services for the 23-24 school year. And IDOE, 23-24 Innovation Educator Fellowship Application Assurances, more of a assurances and MOU for the 23-24 school year. Recommend approval of the contracts.
Thank you, Dr. McCall. Board, do we have any questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve those contracts.
All right. Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. McCall.
Thank you.
Grants, I don't think we have any grants tonight, do we?
No grants.
Wonderful. Donations and gifts.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had an anonymous donation of $1 for the student activities at Thomas Jefferson Middle School and $1,000 to the robotics club by the Regal Rexnord Charitable Foundation for Thomas Jefferson Middle School's robotics club. At Valparaiso High School, we had a $1,000 donation from a person who wishes to remain anonymous for the postseason t-shirts to VHS football and 150 ink pens from Mr. Clay Patton for teachers and staff. And then we had lunch and drinks donated by a number of people for the 28 varsity singers during their summer camp 2023. Paulina Teal Plashewski, Elizabeth Summers, Mr. and Mrs. Tim Stearns, Mr. and Mrs. Brandon Bell, Mr. and Mrs. Matthew Harris, Mr. and Mrs. Scott Parks, Mr. and Mrs. David Matthews, Mr. and Mrs. Chad Skidema, Mr. and Mrs. Bill Stocky, Mr. and Mrs. Bill Van Benthuizen, Mr. and Mrs. Tim Knopf, Mr. and Mrs. John Kick, Mr. and Mrs. Jerome Sarver, Mrs. Kelly Fusco, and Mr. Anthony Malavolta, Mr. and Mrs. Tom Smedley. At Valparaiso High School, Travis Zippel Farms donated $1,000 to the VHS boys volleyball team expenses for equipment, meals, spiritware, and awards. The John E. Lubeck and Vicki L. Lubeck Living Trust donated $25 to school nutrition services, as well as $25 to Backpacks and Snacks. Backpacks and Snacks also received $250 from an anonymous individual, as well as $100 from Mr. and Mrs. William McCall. We've got YMCA Children Community Connection Committee donated a variety of school supplies for student use. St. Andrew's Episcopal Church donated a variety of school supplies for student use. Mr. Robert Cotton donated 12 school supply kits, 6 kits for grades 6 to 8 and 6 kits for grades 9 through 12. And Susie Wright donated school supplies valued at $100, including colored pencils, markers, glue sticks, crayons, pens, pencils, and notebooks for student use. Coldwell Bankers donated $120 for school supplies for students, and the Valparaiso Schools Foundation donated $2,000 to the district loyalty program for the staff.
Thank you, Dr. McCall. And thank you so much to the community of Valparaiso for the kindness and generous to all the kids of the district. Much appreciated. Board, any questions?
No
I have a motion.
I move that we accept the donations and gifts.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. McCall. Thank you, community. All right, we're going to move on to our total quality energy management plan.
We have a handful of policies that are ready for second reading, which many of them comport with updates to the law, including personal background checks, references, mandatory reporting of convictions, child abuse and arrests, criminal history checks for school employees, a staff evaluation, bullying rules, food service program, and service animals for public events. So, these are second reading and would be approved with a motion and votes signifying
Right.
yes.
Board, thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Motion to approve? Or any questions I should ask first?
I have none.
All right, motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now,
What you've been waiting for.
I'm just trying to be efficient.
I know. Clever. Speaking of efficiency, all right. Our energy management plan update. We have Bob McKinney with Stratalign. You'll remember him from previous board meeting. Bob is hobbling on
I
up.
don't
Looks a little
remember him
different.
like that, yeah.
Looks a little different.
Well, sorry, Bob, don't remember it that way.
Athlete sometimes gets hurt.
Too often. That's what happens when you age.
Yeah,
More often.
filling in too.
We've made tremendous progress toward our energy management plan, specifically the construction projects that were approved previously. Bob's here to talk on those updates, and then we also have a series of items for your consideration for approval. So, Bob?
Thank you, Dr. McCall. It's good to see everyone on the board again. In June, you voted on a motion to approve selecting a guaranteed energy savings contractor, Verigy. Two of Verigy's reps joined us this evening. Kurt Schneider, partner at Verigy, and Arash, who is account manager with Verigy as well. After the approval, we had a lot of work to do. While they did quite a bit of engineering, as did all respondents in the RFP, it wasn't complete engineering. We needed to meet with utility companies, make sure that we could accomplish the goals as were set forth. We also did some value engineering. Stratalign worked with Verigy and with utility companies to maximize the impact of the investments. So we shifted some solar over to the elementary school in design. The energy costs there are significantly higher than at the middle school. So we could install less solar and have a larger impact. What that allowed was for us to stay under the budget that was approved for the project while including the theater lighting at the middle schools, which were both bid as alternates. We were also able to maximize the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act. So we're approaching about $1 million in funds from the credits from the Inflation Reduction Act to assist with this project. So while your gross cost is $5.8 million, there are approximately $1 million in tax credits that will be received by the school. utilized, I believe, to pay down the loan in future years. We also have some incentives from the lighting company at about $125,000. Is that what you achieved? That will be able to use in operating fund by the school. So we believe we've got a solid contract now that is buildable. As Verigy said in the meeting today, they dug a lot of dirt over the last 2 months, getting the school ready for a successful project. Any questions on the
So the
project?
biggest changes that you said were, you changed some lighting and some solar based on the higher energy rate at one particular school. Was the $1 million originally that with the Inflation Reduction Act, was that not included?
It was included. It was a little less in our original run with the redesign, and we're doing a carport. We were able to obtain some additional grants for the solar carport.
So not a lot of major differences between your development and what they found.
No, not many at all. The largest opportunity for the project was to shift more of the solar over to the elementary school. Created quite a bit of savings, which allowed the school then to invest into the theater programs, lighting.
Oh, good job, Bob.
It's about $400,000. $450,000.
And the highway rate is 916.
Yeah.
It was 800.
Bob, can you just explain briefly that, so the savings, the net savings is after paying for the debt service on installing this equipment?
Yes, by statute, the project is required to fully fund itself, including the cost of financing over a 20-year period.
Mm-hmm.
The school, and there's a document we're going to discuss approving this evening, we opted to go as a group with a tax-exempt lease. It avoids bonding. It's subject to renewal by the board annually. They refer to it as subject to annual appropriation. So we felt that was a good way to go based on the school's current bond schedule. And we've selected as a group Bank of America. We vetted local banks as well as national banks, and Bank of America frankly had a rate and a term that no one else was able to meet.
Sounds good. So I think probably the takeaway from all this is we're going to be able to install some of this newer equipment, energy saving equipment and solar, and it's not going to cost us any more. And in fact, I think, did you mention there's going to be a net savings for the operational fund?
Absolutely. Over the life of the project, there is a $12 million, roughly, I can get you an exact number. Over the 20 years is a net positive $12 million savings. When you pay off the loan and the interest, apply the rebates, incentives, and grant from the IRA, and then monetize the savings over the 20 years, it's a north of $10 million savings to the school corporation, while funding some non-energy savings equipment, the 2 boilers that are going in the middle school.
Okay, well, that sounds really exciting and a good thing for our school district, and we get to modernize some equipment and have energy savings at the same time.
Yeah, it's really, this structure is excellent in the sense that we're not taking on bonds and levy debt. We're paying for the work over the course of the loan, in effect, through the savings, with the additional cash flow coming in on top of the payment, the annual payment to the bank. So it's really a win-win-win all the way around, while also decreasing our reliance on other energy.
The school will, their operations fund will net benefit from the first year on a minimum of $100,000. That'll increase as utility costs go up. You'll avoid those costs and achieve further benefit.
I know it's a rough number to pick, but we're not 100% completely reliant on our own energy at this point.
We are not. We're grid tied.
Yeah.
All right.
I understand
And
that.
so
What could you give us a round number that, well, you know, how reliant we are on our power company?
From a dollar perspective or
Percentage-wise?
percentage?
of loads?
Well, I believe, we will, in the middle, Thomas Jefferson Middle School will be,
25% of your power will be from a sustainable green source, the sun, and 60-70% of the elementary will be green source,
Okay.
sustainable. And some of the reasons why we aren't 100% is the utility company only allows up to a certain amount. Otherwise, they charge a large amount to the fiber to basically shut down the system. Cost $200,000.
Okay.
That we might pay maybe in high school if we were lucky enough to do that, things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
So using the lease, I can see the benefits in avoiding bond costs. Were the lease interest rates about the same as the bond, or a little bit more?
I think
How
it
did
was
that
a
work
tick
out?
less than current bond rates. It's a tick under 4.4%, 20 years. Tax exempt lease. When we originally looked at this, when we started exploring this, rates were 3.9.
Yeah.
So we had some maneuvering to do when it was approved, and now rates were 4.6, and we were able to get it down to 4.4. I think they've run since we got it locked in on a 60-day lock. So unfortunately, we would have had greater savings had we been able to
Lock it in.
get in front of you guys 2 months earlier.
Does the lease interest rate stay the same?
It does.
For the entire?
It's a 20-year term rate.
Okay.
Are we able to refinance if rates go down?
You are, but with a penalty.
Hmm.
I believe it's
Is it after so many years?
our experience. So the document says there's a prepayment penalty. If the refinance was done with Bank of America, I'm sure they would amortize some of that cost into the new
Okay.
loan. Yeah,
Okay.
that's been our experience.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Great questions, great conversation.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, if you chose to take the penalty, how much of a loss? Like, is it better just to stay with it throughout the 20 years? Or take the penalty? Say that again, I'm sorry.
2% of the total loan negotiable.
That would be the penalty. No, your question's excellent. And so if rates fell enough, it would be absolutely worth taking the penalty, and we would be glad to do the math and have the bank prove it out. And again, if rates are falling and banks are getting refinanced, they have an interest to work with you. I mean, you're going to find another lender that would go with the rate, even though you're paying a penalty. So they're going to want to stay with you. And I think they would mitigate that 1 to 2% cost. Historically, they have.
Thank you. Well, at least we don't have to wait 20 years to really see a change.
That's right.
I'll be 68,
You
so.
want to talk a little bit about timeline, just rough?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
estimate?
So we have multiple energy conservation measures. Lighting will be the first that we tackle. What we were able to do, the school had a fixture we're big fans of. Our firm has been involved with installations of over 75,000 of these fixtures. The brand is Lightronic. It is a volumetric LED light. It is a new light. It is not a retrofit. It has a 10-year warranty when run at a specific power level at 100,000 hour run life. So you will not be changing lights out for at least 10 years. That's going to happen right away. Lightronics is out of Chicago, is where one of their manufacturing facilities is located. We have a fairly good relationship with them. We're vendor agnostic. They just happen to be on a lot of our projects. When we learned you used them, and we wound up speccing the fixtures after discussing with Andy what's working well and what he wants to stay uniform throughout his facilities. We had them, because they can sell them elsewhere, start to stockpile. So the fixtures are in and ready. So lighting, once we get some contract work and Verigy gets through some internal things, can start within the next 30 days.
8,000. Right?
Yeah, roughly 8,000 fixtures in 9 different facilities will be installed. They're going to go quick. The quicker we can get those in, the quicker you start to save energy, and per their contract, they want to book some savings during the construction period. We will roll into our HVAC. We're replacing 2 boilers, Thomas Jefferson Middle School, along with some controls. The long lead time on that installation is 12 weeks. So as soon as those are in, those will hit. So by the end of the year, we expect lighting to be substantially complete, mechanical work to be substantially complete. Solar, we're dependent on Department of Homeland Security for some approvals. As soon as they receive those, solar can begin the process. It's just, if it falls in winter, we're gonna have some conversations. I mean, if it's a tough winter and we're putting in foundations, maybe we wait till spring. Some of the applications are going on the roof. If there's a lot of snow, again, we may wait till spring. So that's a game time decision. And then retro commissioning, going through the middle school and optimizing its efficiency. The energy management system dashboard that gives the school control of KW and KWH will be happening simultaneously. So schedule runs through December of 24 because there are some long lead items, and the Verigy likes to allow for some buffer. We anticipate with decent fortune, we will be completed prior to that date.
Any other questions, board?
Do we have a motion to anything for him, or is he just here right now?
We'll introduce 4 documents, successive. So first one up is the contract with Verigy.
Yep.
And that does require board action.
I'm sorry, before that, do we get a timeline of projects?
Yes, in the contract, there was a project schedule that was included. We are constantly updating. We had a pre-con meeting, not to be presumptuous. I invited Verigy to this meeting. I thought it would be wise to have a pre-con meeting. As Verigy said, they don't do those until they have a contract signed, but this is an important opportunity for Verigy, and our firm has worked with Verigy on multiple projects and trusted that it was a good investment of time. The project schedule will continue to update. We don't anticipate anything from a scope of work standpoint creating additional time onto the.
That's probably why you talked about the light fixtures and other pieces of equipment, because probably over the past couple of years, you had some difficulty obtaining all the equipment.
It's a never-ending process. I mean, project managers are inundated with.
So you don't foresee any, you see a fairly smooth, other than labor maybe, but a fairly smooth what the schedule is saying.
Based on what we've learned from Verigy, do you anticipate, you feel like you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed?
We're meeting with Andy tomorrow to pick up locations where we're gonna put the light fixtures here. We're already working with the labor. The only issue, why we're being conservative is the transformers and disconnect switches for the solar array could be out 50 to 52 weeks.
Okay.
And so you'll see the actual solar panels and the canopy probably by spring, and you'll be sitting there, why isn't it running? Well, because we can't get a transformer.
Okay.
So that's.
And that's everybody though, that's not just us.
That's everybody.
That's everybody.
Yeah. And trust me, we want to do the same thing. That's the nice thing about this procurement. We want to save energy as quickly as you do. Does that make sense? Because we have a guarantee with the school corporation, and that's just a nice buffer for us to get that going.
That's a good and important question.
Thank you, I found it, I didn't go down.
I'm sorry, you're welcome.
Who's in charge of the transformers, you or NIPSCO? I mean,
We buy the transformer.
you buy them?
What happens is, we have a stamp drawing, we submit it to the Department of Homeland Security in Indiana, okay? And then they approve it, we're gonna do the structural analysis, and then also the actual print. And then also we do an interconnection agreement with NIPSCO, and then we'll get approval from them as well. And then we can't actually start until both approvals from Homeland Security and the
Do you install the transformers or does
we have
NIPSCO?
electrical union contract.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a big backlog on transformers.
Yeah.
I mean, I was aware of that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not proven.
And we're a big purchaser, I mean, we're a $4 million company, we do $150 million renewable energy a year, so.
Yeah,
There's no favorites here.
yeah, that's been going on for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah,
I think they're only coming from China, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a good comment. All your solar panels and all your steel is all American made, and there's an additional 10% added. Share that as well.
It's nice.
And with the lights specifically, we'll be doing second shift work in order to not disrupt the school day.
Oh, you'll have a few footprints on somebody's desk, I'm sure.
And they'll wipe them off. That's part of the contractor meeting.
We're not perfect.
Bob said you were.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, first item up would be the approval of the contract with Verigy then.
Okay. Verigy being the general contractor. Board, do you have any questions for Verigy? Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
A second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Second one.
Next document, go ahead.
Yeah, the next document up for discussion is the resolution to approve a guaranteed energy savings contract by the board. It's we need to approve this separately by statute. It's approving the finance piece, so the school can move forward with Bank of America as the tax exempt lender on the project.
And board, specifically, Carl?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
No,
on-
no. I think I've been answered earlier this evening.
Okay.
Money guy.
I assume Jim's office has looked over these documents.
Yes,
Jim?
Sarkeesian Law Offices did look over these documents.
Okay.
Board, any other questions? May I have a motion?
So moved?
Second?
I'll second.
And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Document 3.
Third document is, like all good banks, they want to control the money. There is an escrow agreement for this project. So there will be some interest arbitrage. They will deposit the funds into an interest-bearing account that will benefit the school corporation. The funds for the project cannot be drawn out of the account without Bank of America's approval, with guidance from Valparaiso and our firm looking over all requests for funds.
Very similar process to what we engaged in from 2015 on with our bond dollars.
Again, board, any questions? All right, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Document 4.
Final document is, so we have the resolution to approve financing. The document in front of you is the actual lease itself with Bank of America. This document was vetted by your council, along with Bank of America's council. Both Jim's and our firm were carbon copied along the entire way, so it's a complete document.
All right, again, board, I ask you, are there any questions you might have? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So, yep, go ahead.
So moved?
A second.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
And then the final document I'll present, this is a contract. Now that we have the project oriented, we've got the financing, we need a construction manager. And so this is contract with Strataline in order to perform those services as the owner's agent. And he will be a part of this project every step of the way, all the way through completion, certification, and when we start getting dollars in the energy savings contract as well.
That's correct.
Verification.
Verification.
Anything to add on top of that?
Nope, I think that covers it.
Okay. It's about $97,000 when taking into account the work with the RFP as well. That was a $22,000 contract. It equals about 2% of the overall project, a $5.8 million project. So well within and actually below other contracts for this type of work. So again, very happy with Strataline's work so far and looking forward to continuing partnership throughout the duration.
Bob, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When we get finished with this project and everybody's happy, what will it look like? How will we know that you have done a great job personally? And when will this be?
You'll know I did a great job because I'll make sure Verigy does a great job. Everything that is contracted with Verigy and when we originally met with Dr. McCall, Jim, and Andy, everything we do is based on data. And so the only way to monitor how a project performs is by data. And so one of the key scopes of this project is the energy management system that goes in. And that tells us exactly how much power we've saved, both from a demand and kWh standpoint. And all your rates are published through the utility, and so we can quantify exactly what was saved. If we're unsuccessful, which in my 15 years of doing this has never been the case. I think one time after 5 years, we were discussing this earlier, the project came up $500 short of what was guaranteed by the contractor. So the contractor had to write a check to the board for $500. The contractor would be responsible to write a check for $500 or whatever was short, excuse me, for the school corporation. That's not the backstop, and that's not the goal of doing this. We firmly believe, and it's borne out over the last 15 years, you will surpass what is guaranteed for you. But to answer your question, an annual report by law is required for Verigy to provide information so that can be filed with the state. So you'll be getting an annual report card, but because of your dashboard, you'll be having a daily report card of how it's performing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you often work with Verigy on other projects?
Verigy has won 3 projects with our, it might be, this is the 4th project, I believe, with our firm.
So you feel comfortable with their work?
Very comfortable.
Does this project just have to do with energy related to lighting as opposed to HVAC?
We have a small amount of HVAC on this project. The scope is limited to 2 boilers that were aged and not working properly that will be replaced, along with controls.
Yeah.
So some building automation is in the scope, and those are more energy efficient boilers. If we were doing a mechanical project on its own, you would save money as a school corporation, but there would not be the type of savings that solar energy and lighting and retro commissioning and energy management systems provide. We wouldn't be able to use this financing mechanism because the payback would be too long.
Right, but the solar powers more than lighting. I mean, it just provides power, correct?
It's exactly right.
Yeah,
You will use the power you make until you aren't making enough, and then you will use the grid's power.
So when you say we're saving 60% of power, that's related to our entire power bill, not just lighting bill.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, 100% of your power bill. Yeah, anything that would be generating the use of electricity, we're offsetting with more efficient lights, HVAC controls, and then solar produces energy to offset ideally the balance to get you down to zero.
So it offsets air conditioning?
It offsets anything that pulls power.
Yeah.
So on a sunny day, it offsets demand, which is a huge charge on your bill, right? So it's absolutely.
Yeah, and of course the LED just reduces the power need, significantly.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I want to clarify something because I'm going to have to write the check, which is so popular. The solar will reduce the kilowatt hour piece of the bill. Kilowatt hour is like how many miles a car is driven in a month. KW is like how fast you go. Under the project and basically the formulas that we projected together, we did not show any KW savings from solar. There is savings from lighting, of course, but I just want to share with you, when you say the entire bill will be down, the kilowatt hour cost will be down 60%, and it'll be verified every day. And we'll know if the system's down, we have a data analytics person that basically monitors every individual system that's converted. And we'll ship somebody out up to sites. So that's how sophisticated we are versus me being 64 and back in the day, we'd wait a year and a half to figure out the bills were right. So that's what Bob's talking about. And every day we'll know how many kilowatt hours is produced by solar and how much reduction is being done or used by kilowatt hours in KW.
And you say we know that every day, is that because the panel will give us all of that information throughout? Or how are you?
You'll have it on, both the elementary and the middle school will have a monitor, which you all could actually, or the public can look into, see how much production and what it does to help the environment.
That'll be a public dashboard, and we're looking to incorporate that into our science lessons as well.
Right. Sorry to interrupt.
No. It's okay. Your voice projects. It works.
If you were to estimate the savings that were generated through the retrofit to LED versus the solar, is it 50-50?
No.
How would you?
So when you look at it, Bob did a great job with energy unit index. That's how we kind of look at it. And what that means is you don't look at the actual price of the cost of energy from the utility company. You look at how much usages of kilowatt hours and gas thermal usages of KW. You had a substantial amount. You have a substantial 9 buildings that are doing lighting. So this is savings from the lighting were substantially a lot higher because they're only doing solar at really 2 properties versus the thousand. And hopefully in the future, because this is an incredible time in 40 years where the government is allowing 30 to 40% benefits giving to the school that were allowed taxpayers in the past. So what's going on in the environment, electrification of America, right? Is number one is the cost of energy is risen at 66% over the last 5-6 years. So schools and cities and airports, they can't handle this because the state gives you 1 or 2%. So you've got to do something about it. So the federal government or the Biden administration is allowing now schools and cities and non-profits take advantage of this benefit of long-term.
Yeah. Well, the subsidy is significant, and it's without the subsidy, it'd be difficult to make the numbers work. So, yeah, and we want to take advantage of it, of course.
Right. But back to what Bob said, what you do is you try to do as much energy efficiency as you can, the LED lighting, the retro conditioning, the boilers. Yeah. And then when you're kind of done, because you got a new chiller, right? I mean, middle school. Then you can, what I call top it off with the solar, right?
You don't want to overbuild the solar, so you right-size the facility with your energy conservation measures and bring solar in once you know how much energy it's going to be using. A rule of thumb, though, if you're going from traditional T8 lighting to LED on a school's schedule, historically has been 18 to 25% energy reduction is what you can expect going to LED.
On our dashboard, will there be some type of comparison so we can see where we were as to?
Yeah, the nice thing about the dashboard experience with Verigy on the clients where it's been installed is you can ask for what you want to see, but we do want to know, from inception, how many dollars have been saved. What was the original energy use index versus what we've gotten it to? But again, if there's something you want to see, they'd be happy to display it.
I thought that would be nice as an educator. I'm thinking of the students, since this is going to go into the classroom, how they can compare and contrast, where we were to where we are or will
Absolutely.
be.
That's a
I think
great
it's a
point.
great visual. And then, because when he was talking about the KWLs, made me start thinking about my own bill that I don't pay that much attention to. I just pay it. So
like at Wayne Township, it's Ben Davis, we started out together as teaming with the administration, and there was 38 million kilowatt hours is what I call corporation wise, and they're down to 17 million today. And their KW was 34,000, and that's at $22 a pop, which means that's like 700, 800,000 a year. It's down to 15,000. The really problem that what I was talking about is they reduced over 60% of their energy units, right? But their cost today after 7 years is the same. So they're not, I just want to bring that up, it's amazing, but you're avoiding the escalation of energy, which is extremely important for the community to understand.
that's good. I think that's it, but I'm thinking as the community, should there be some frequently asked questions, just some education piece,
Well,
because this
this-
is a lot to
We'll
kind
show
of
Yeah,
on
take
the
this-
in.
graph, right,
this-
we'll show 38 million, 17 million, how many trees and how many school buildings and how many textbooks.
Good.
It's all you will create it with us.
So kids can understand it and grasp it.
And
Not-
as,
Not just the kids, but right, I was about to say, not just the kids,
as we,
the board members and adults too.
as we
So,
move
yeah.
forward in the project and we hit some milestones, Bob will be reappearing, probably about every other month, with updates, and we'll be able to continue the conversation as more questions arise, as we kind of move down the path together.
Thank you, I know I'll have a lot more.
Anytime. That's what we're here to answer.
Thank you.
It does take board action.
Okay, that was great
Construction
questions, board. Does take board action. Do I hear a motion to approve Strataline's contract?
I move that we approve Strataline's contract.
A second?
Well, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Public hearing on bus replacement plan, Mr. Holyfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Each year, as part of the annual budgeting process, we come before the board with the proposed bus replacement plan. I believe, see the PowerPoint here, Troy. There we go. First, some information on the plan. The advertisement of the plan, it is currently posted on Gateway, so the public taxpayers can see it, and also it's posted on the VCS website. The plan itself identifies buses scheduled for replacement for the next 5 years, and it also includes estimated replacement cost by year. These expenditures are part of the operations fund. The proposed plan, as you can see, there are 5 years. We are requesting to replace 5 buses for years 2024, 25, 26, and then 2027, 7 buses will be replaced, and in 2028, 6 buses will be replaced. And the cost of the buses, the dollar amount is increased by 1% every year for estimating. I do need to say that we are strongly investigating the purchasing of propane-powered buses. The cost, there's some help from the government that makes the cost the same or even a little bit less than gas or diesel buses. The operating cost is much less, and they're just flat out better for the environment. So we feel that is also part of our energy management plan. The timeline for the bus replacement plan is to today hold the hearing, and then we'll come back at the September board meeting and ask for approval of the bus replacement plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board, any questions?
And then if anyone who's present wants to speak on this particular topic, they're allowed to during the public hearing.
Okay.
And the number of buses that we choose each year is already just in rotation from what we've already had, right?
In Indiana, in order to replace a bus, it has to be 12 years old, unless there's some kind of reason. Maybe you have one that's constantly breaking down or has very high mileage or something like that. So what Mr. Spicer, our transportation director, has put through is just a list of all the buses by age. So except for some rare instances, it's just as the buses age out, they get replaced.
That's what I was thinking. I just noticed we went from 5, 7, and 6, so I figured it must be a rotation. I don't remember asking that. last
And the
year.
estimated cost is aggregate, that's not per bus either, so, not yet anyways.
Nice.
Going RV.
Yeah. So anyone in the,
Would anybody from the public? Mr. Williams, please.
I can speak from everyone.
Well, we know that, but we just love to hear you up here. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned looking at propane. What exactly does looking at propane? If the cost is coming down towards similar to what a diesel bus is going to cost, why not propane?
Well, to be honest, that's where we're getting the bids from. We're having trouble getting bids on propane buses because right now there's only one company that provides bids. Mr. Spicer has those bids, and the costs are good, but they're single So we should have some at the next board meeting to offer.
Is the supply limited on propane buses at this point?
A 7-month wait, which actually is about normal for regular gasoline and propane.
So maybe in some of these future years, propane might be an option?
It looks like that'd be a strong possibility.
And this can always be amended,
Oh,
the bus
this bus,
replacement plan.
the plan itself doesn't dictate what type of buses. It just says number of buses.
Oh,
and
okay.
estimated cost. So we go with propane or gas or diesel, whichever we feel is the best choice.
Okay. And I will always also express the aspirational wish that as more electric buses are built, the cost of those will come down, and hopefully we'll have some electric buses someday too. So thank you.
Well, we continue to look and pursue grants. Our eligibility for those grants kind of hold us back and make the electric buses cost prohibitive, but they're always on our radar that we're looking at. Anyone else? Close the hearing and
All right,
we'll look for approval next month.
so board, any other questions from the board? All right. I'd like to have a
I
motion.
affirm, looking into the propane buses,
Yeah.
my father used to sell propane and he ran his vehicles on propane, and I also have a number of clients that use their fleet. Some of the police cars are with using propane fuels, so, and it's been very successful.
Well, it sounds like we need to get on that bus right there. I'm sorry. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
We're not voting
Oh,
on,
we're not voting on this
Nope,
plan?
just
Oh,
closing the
okay.
public hearing and
Okay.
we'll come back to it next month.
Then we are on board. We're all on bus. All right,
Next public hearing is on the capital projects plan.
all right. So,
Thank you, Mr. President. Also part of the annual budget process, we're coming before the board with a 3-year capital projects plan. And I have another PowerPoint for that. Some information as far as advertisement, the same as the bus replacement plan. It is posted on Gateway and on the VCS website. There's 2 parts to the plan itself. One is capital acquisition. Those are things. Those are, such as like a vehicle or a lawnmower. And then there's the projects that are capital in nature. These expenditures are part of the operations fund. Also, we're utilizing some of our ESSER fund for these purchases, as well as the referendum construction fund. There's a wide variety of items you can use this money for, including building acquisition and improvement, purchase of equipment, utilities and property insurance, maintenance of equipment, sports facilities, technology, a number of different things. The plan itself, or for the capital acquisition, these are things that cost more than $10,000 a piece. If you're buying 10,000 computers that cost $1,000 a piece, that wouldn't be part of this, because it's just, if you bought one computer at $10,000 a piece, it would be on this plan. So we're talking about maintenance equipment and vehicles aside from school buses. Storage, scoreboards, athletic equipment, and the plan does have the full list for each year. Looking at the 3 years for 2024, partial listing of projects includes asphalt projects, building improvements such as carpet replacement, HVAC improvements, roofing replacement, lighting upgrades, and playground upgrades. Now, the lighting upgrades may change as this energy management plan proceeds. Looking at 2025, you'll see a lot of the same things, more asphalt projects. I have to commend Andy Blastek. He's done a great job. I think he has our asphalt replacement and roofing planned out till 2055. So it's going to be on the plan quite a bit. More building improvements and HVAC improvements. Again, as I said, more roofing, security camera upgrade in 2025, the resurfacing of the high school track in that year, and a storage building. The 3rd year of the plan, again, asphalt project, building improvements, including some window replacement at the high school, network switch upgrade, and in addition to the bus garage. The capital project plan, similar to the bus replacement plan, has to have a public hearing, which we're doing right now, and then we'll come back in September and ask for approval of the plan. And again, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board, and then we can open it up to the public.
Board, do you have any questions?
Okay, anyone present this evening would like to speak specifically on the capital projects plan? Mr. Sutt?
Yes, sir. How are you tonight?
It's good to see you again.
Good. Yeah.
Been a while.
No, I'm saying I missed this planning one, so I have a bunch of questions for that too, but that's off the topic now. Some of the projects coming up, I'm a big stickler on the construction. And I said there were some projects in the past that I wasn't happy with, and I've made it known in here publicly. One instance, I ran up on the Vail School asphalt paving, and terrible job. I said it was completely just not good at all, and I called the school corp, Ben Keppel's replacement. I don't remember his name.
That's Andy Blastic right there.
Andy? Okay, I talked to him about it, and he said it was a temporary thing, and they're gonna redo it eventually. I said, did we pay a temporary price for that project? Because if we paid for a full price, I want the full job, I want it done right and correct, so it's just things like that.
It was a temporary price that we paid,
Good,
just to
and
give
I
you
didn't
the
know that.
epilogue.
Now I know, and I appreciate that. So it's just things when we go forward to hold the construction departments, to hold the construction companies liable for the work that they're doing to make sure we get a good product for the money that we're spending on these projects.
Absolutely. You know my vigilance.
Good, okay.
So I would invite you actually, if you want to meet up with Andy and even the Vergy guys and Bob and go out in the foyer and ask some questions.
Yeah, I got some questions about the solar,
Yeah.
you know, the savings in the winter time and that kind of
Yep,
stuff. And
have at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Exit stage right. Yeah, I'd keep on walking if I were you. Anyone else care to speak on the capital projects plan? Seeing none, you can close the hearing and we will revisit it next month to approve it.
All right, now we move on to the budget overview and permission to present to the Valparaiso City Council. Mr. Holikill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Each year, the proposed budget is presented to the VCS board, and the request is made for approval to present the proposed budget to the Valparaiso City Council. You're going to have another PowerPoint directed towards the screen. Just a quick.
It's tab roulette, huh?
Well, while we're waiting for that, I'll go ahead. There we go. Just a quick review of our budget. Our budget does have 6 funds as part of this process. We have the debt service funds, the pension debt funds, capital referendum, operating referendum, operations fund, and the big one, the education fund. The education fund, which is over half of our budget, is mostly based upon, the basic grant that we get is mostly based upon the ADM, the average daily membership, that are the student counts on October 2nd, February 1st. It also includes complexity, special ed, honors and CTE diplomas, and this year the NESP grant. This is not property tax revenue. This is just a monthly check we get from the state. And the education fund is used for instructional expenses. A portion of revenue is transferred to the operations fund to cover expenses because, as you know, several years ago, they moved some expenses from the education fund to the operations fund, but they didn't move the revenue. So each month we move $580,000 from education to operations. Speaking of operations fund, the revenue from that is almost entirely property taxes. There is also some excise tax, commercial vehicle excise tax, and financial institution tax that adds to that. And again, as I just mentioned, what also adds to operations is the $580,000 a month that is transferred from education. The operations fund is a maximum levy. It's determined by, they have a formula using a 5-year rolling average of non-farm property, I believe. But recent property taxpayer relief legislation capped our maximum levy growth despite our AV growth at 4% for 2024 and 2025. So we're still getting more money, which is good. The operation funds expenses, they're used to fund things related to anything non-instructional. Those costs can, anything not directly related to classroom instruction, such as maintenance and transportation, both the operation cost and the salary and benefits for those. Bus and vehicle purchases, which you've already heard about tonight, utilities, and the purchase of equipment. The next group of funds are our debt funds. We do have 3 debt funds. The debt service fund includes the 2011 and 2012 building corp leases and the 2 common school loans that we currently have. The pension debt service fund is for the 2015 amended pension bond. We pay that off in January of 26. And the third one is the capital referendum fund. This fund includes the 2015 and 2016 referendum construction bonds. As you heard Dr. McCall say earlier, the guaranteed energy savings contract that you just approved isn't going to affect our debt. It's going to be paid by savings out of our operations fund, so it's not an increased levy, or it's not going to increase our debt rate. The revenue for these debt service funds comes from property taxes and also the excise taxes, commercial vehicle excise tax, and financial institution taxes. The amount of the levy, the amount that we request for these debt funds is based solely on what our payments are. We look at what our payments will be, 2 for each one during the year, and say that's how much money we need and that's how much money is levied. The pension debt fund is debt neutral, however, it's a little different. Whatever we levy for the pension debt payments, that amount is reduced from the levy that we get for the operations fund. So what that means is in January of 26, I'm looking at that date, it's an important time because as soon as we pay off that pension debt, that amount of money, which is about $1.4 million, will stay in our operations fund. So it's automatic increase without an increase in taxes. Okay, the operating referendum fund, as you know, it was renewed in May of 2022. It's for an 8 calendar year period. The maximum rate that was voted on by the taxpayers was 0.1495, so that's 14.95 cents per $100 of assessed value. Per our expenditure plan, the money can be used for managing class sizes, essential health and safety initiatives, retaining teachers and staff, and academic and educationally related programs. The operating referendum, similar to the operations fund, this year due to the recent property taxpayer relief legislation, despite our AV growth, was the increase to this fund levy can be no more than 3%, and that's for 2024 and 2025 as well. Looking at the numbers, last year, the certified budget, you can see the education fund was a little over half of the entire budget, which was $92,900,521. The advertised budget proposed for 2024 is a little bit higher than that, $99,013,573. As far as the rates go, if you look at the center column, again, education fund has no property tax levy, so it's 0. In the advertised 2023, what we advertised last year was $1.0905 per $100 assessed value, and when the DLGF was finished adjusting things, because the AV had increased so much, the rate actually came to 95.35 cents, so less than $1. The advertised rate for this year in this proposed budget is $4.25 cents per $100 assessed value. And once the DLGF adjusts that for our AV growth, I'm confident that our tax rate will once again be less than $1, which compared to other parts of the state is very good. The budget timeline, with board's permission, on September 11th, I'll present this to the Valparaiso City Council. And then on October 9th, there'll be a second reading, and then we submit the budget to the LGF for determination, and they will let us know in December what our tax levy and rates are. So once again, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board, and I also request permission to present the budget proposal to the Valparaiso City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Warfield. Board, any questions?
How many more years do we have left on the capital referendum?
I'm sorry?
How many more years do we have left on the capital referendum?
Through
I don't know off the top of my
2035?
head.
Yeah.
Through 2035?
Okay.
20-year,
Okay.
Probably 36, I think.
2036,
Mm,
oh,
okay.
sure, 36.
And I think certified AVs have come out in Porter County already, I believe.
They have, yes.
And do you remember what percentage increase?
The percentage increase was 5.4, I believe. It's 5 point something.
Yeah, so we will see a net decrease in our
Yes.
tax rate from.
They said,
what
well,
you've
we will see more
advertised.
money.
Yep.
Okay. And the AV has gone up fairly considerably lately, so,
Mhm.
you know, it's
But I
nice to have a
think-
lower tax rate. I don't know that anybody's paying less money. But you want the AV, if the AV was going down, we'd be in real trouble.
We'd be in real trouble.
So,
Well, I think it's important to note too that, we're in an exceptional place. And we've been, I think, responsible partners in education with our community. Again, when we went out for that referendum, we decreased our maximum rate by 27%. Understanding, of course, that we're asking for what we need in order to produce a above and beyond educational experience for our children in our community.
Yeah.
And, this is just par for the course in that regard.
it's good value.
So I think we need a motion.
Yes.
To, that Mr. Holyfield and
Yep.
Dr. McCall go before the city council with the proposed budget, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warfield.
It's the big money show here.
And he's up once again, our annual calculation of Form 515.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Each year, the Form 515 calculations are done to show the cost of the transfer tuition. And I'll direct you to the slide on the screen. If you look at the bottom, I'm sorry. Let me just go on. There, thank you. If you look at this screen, what it shows is last year's, the estimated column are the calculations, and actually using the actual numbers, for kindergarten full-day students, it costs $7,457.92 to educate a child. The elementary grades 1 through 5 was just a few cents less than that. Middle school was $7,937.51, and the high school $7,026.13. And for that time period, the per state funding we received, the basic grant for the education fund, was $6,578.53 per student. So you can see that the cost to educate the child was more than the money we received. For the calculations for 2023, 2024, they're a little bit lower, actually. The estimated cost for full-day kindergarten, $8,011.22, elementary, $8,141.58, middle school, $8,705.09, and high school, $7,424.81. In the orange box, you'll see that the amount of money we're getting with the basic grant for each child did go up considerably. We appreciate that. $6,956.13. Then if you look at the top, it shows the difference. So last year was estimated in the green. That's how much more it would cost than we would receive for that student. The actual is there in the white column under 22-23. And then the estimated amount for 23-24 using the 515 calculations, a little over $1,000 for full day kindergarten, 1185 elementary, 1749 for middle school, and high school about $468. The thing to keep in mind is, well, at the August 25th, 2022 VCS board meeting, transfer tuition was waived for students who live out of a district and are children of employees, or students who are parochial school transfer students and are currently enrolled in the 2023-24, 2022-23 school year at that time. Those students were counted in the average daily membership, and we did receive state funding purposes. If we didn't have those students, and this year we have 89 students that fall into that category, we would still have some of the costs. It's not like we would reduce the number of teachers we have or the lighting cost, everything that goes into the calculation. We'd still have many of those costs, but we would not receive that $6,956.13 per student. So what that means is, looking at just the state funding, it's a $706,552 income to the corporation to have those 89 students with us. So we're asking the board to approve to waive the transfer tuition for out-of-district students who are children of employees or students who are parochial school transfer students enrolled in Valparaiso Community Schools for the 2023-2024 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Holyfield. Board, do you have any questions?
Of course, if we had a different policy, and I'm not suggesting we do, because I know we're pretty full as it is, I mean, so our capacity is limited. But if we opened it up to others, the money would follow them too. So
It would.
At some point, it just becomes an issue of capacity. How many students can we serve and give them the quality of education that we've become known for? So, and I know, and of course, you know, we anticipate growth to the point of 0.5% a year in student growth, because we're a growing community and because this is a system of choice.
Most school corporations across the state are expected to stay absolutely flat or reduce. We're fortunate enough that our enrollment is expected to increase, even if slightly, it's going to still increase. So you're right, it is an issue of capacity.
Yeah. It's a good place to be compared to many school districts. I mean,
The excellent place to be.
yeah.
Board, any other questions? All right, may I have a motion to approve the annual calculation of Form 515
And the waive transfer tuition.
and the
We'll do them
waive
together.
transfer tuition? Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, yeah, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, Mr. Holyfield, again, approval of the annual ECA financial reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. Each year, the building treasurers submit their annual ECA financial report. These reports are audited by our internal auditor, Amy Francis, and then reviewed by myself before being submitted to the State Board of Accounts through Gateway. We are asking the board to approve the annual ECA financial reports for the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30th, July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2023.
Board, I know you've had time to look over these documents. Do you have any questions? All right, seeing that there is none, may I have a motion to approve the ECA financial reports?
So moved.
And second,
Second?
and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. And Mr. Holyfield, once again, you're doing a great job, Mr. Holyfield.
Thank you.
Surplus of the VHS food service equipment.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the recent remodel of the Valparaiso High School servery, we had a number of items that were surplus, no longer needed. We're requesting board approval to dispose of these surplus items through a public auction to be determined, a date to be determined at a later date. I believe that you have a copy of the items. One thing I wanted to share with you is, we have the new culinary program at Vail, and we've been trying to, get the equipment they need. And fortunately, there are some items on this list that they could use at the culinary program. So that was good for them, got them the items they needed right away, and it saved us the cost of having to buy those items new.
I saw this, I wondered if there was a food kitchen or if there was some, places to help maybe the homeless or some nonprofits out there that could benefit from some of this equipment before the auction. I'm not sure we're allowed to do that or not, but.
I do know that we are allowed to give surplus items to other schools. I
Okay.
don't know about other, but I can find out.
That would be nice. And then, and if we auction them, who comes up with prices? Is it just, how do we determine that?
We employ an auction service. When we did our recent auction, we used Craft, and they set a minimum bid, and the price is set by the highest bidder.
So we can make a motion to approve the list going for auction minus any equipment that could be donated to schools or, if applicable, nonprofits.
Any other questions, board? I'm just gonna ask him to.
What he said.
Yeah. I have a motion to approve, a second.
I move that we accept all that Dr. McCall said on
Okay,
that.
we had that, so
Yeah.
that's a second,
Yes,
so,
second.
so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion passes. Mr. Holyfield.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to tag out Mr. Holyfield, talk a little bit about staff evaluation plan. Annually, we present the evaluation plan for consideration, and it hasn't changed over the years. However, recent legislation passed provided local control to school districts for their evaluation model, with the only stipulations being that teachers must be evaluated annually and that they must be rated into one of 4 categories. The model and tool can then be determined by the school district. And so in working with the Teachers Association and looking at research on the topic, we are deciding to deploy a beta test of a new model that is more collaborative and participatory, goal setting and action oriented, formative in its approach for continuous improvement of our professional staff. This is an opt-in for teachers who've demonstrated a history of being highly effective under the old model. And so we would offer the opportunity up to those teachers who have at least 3 years, the past 3 years of being highly effective under the old model in order to opt into this new model to run it through its straps. But it is research-based, and the opportunity is too golden to pass up to get started on it. And so we're excited. It's not a lessening of work. It is more directed work with really the goal of continuous improvement in our professional development. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on it, but with your approval, we can submit it to the state, which is also one of the qualifiers that you must have your evaluation plan on file to be eligible for the teacher appreciation grant as well. So, but I am more than happy to answer any questions on it.
Board, do you have any questions this evening?
Has the changes been already discussed with the VTA?
Absolutely. We had our discussion meeting in August, which just footnote, we are continuing to have discussion in Valparaiso because that's what works in Valparaiso is a productive dialogue with all the professionals on what we do within our schools.
What's their feedback? I'm sorry.
Feedback is all very positive. Again, they're excited. I think it's going to improve a collective self-efficacy in regard to our instructional decision-making, and really hone some of the actions and events that can take place. So what you'll see as a menu item approach would be, in addition to walkthroughs and professional dialogue and reflective questioning techniques provided by the administration, there's also opportunities for self-analysis through, I'm going to date myself, videotaping of a lesson and then breaking down the film. Film study is always important. The film don't lie, you know.
Big ass guy, don't.
Yep. And but also doing that with a peer, with the instructional coaches, and it's through the lens of the goals that were set at the beginning of the year with the administrator, and also still utilizing our rubric to provide that sieve through which, you know, you're looking at those actions and instructional decisions that are made countless times in a class period. There's also, you know, your standard workshops, book study, but it's really the reflection and professional dialogue where growth occurs. And so those are the activities that are promoted, but also, you know, any other such that are good ideas, because that's what we're looking for, is to generate good ideas and best practices as well, knowing that our teachers are a wealth of that information.
Do we ever get feedback from students?
We have not in this evaluation model.
Sounds like a great idea. Be interesting to see how it turns out.
Be happy to report back to you.
Yeah, what percentage of educators will be part of this?
It's opt-in. With your approval, we'll begin a rollout and gather participants, but I would anticipate a pretty high response rate of opting in. We probably have about 260 teachers that would be eligible, you know, across every grade level and department. Again, I would anticipate a pretty high opt-in rate.
What was your dissertation in when you were getting your PhD?
Teacher perception of evaluation and teacher self-efficacy.
Okay. You know.
So you know a little bit about this topic.
A wee bit.
You know, I have to be honest, Board. He got a little geeked out on this subject. This is really, this makes him excited. This is like talking to a car guy about cars. You know, I saw a football coach in him. This is exciting. Dr. McCall.
It is.
Great.
Well, the whole concept is behind, you know, this idea of continuous improvement and battling against the ceiling effect. You know, so when you're a high performing district, you know, what variables can you control and enhance in order to, you know, create that incremental improvement. And so, you know, when you have a guaranteed viable curriculum, when you have excellent students, when you have multiple layers of support for students, opportunities abound, when you have a professional staff, you know, focusing on the variable of instruction and teacher self-efficacy. And so both on an individual level as well as a collective level, you know, not only believing that you can affect change, but knowing how and having the tools to affect change. You know, that's really self-efficacy, not just confidence. It's agency to be able to affect change. And so that goes a long way in that good to great mentality, which is why I get geeked out about it in the context of Valparaiso and what we can do in order to continue to improve.
Sounds good. I really just wish we had some, even though if it weren't accompanied with this piece, I love student feedback. because I think that's the raw and the realness of really who I am as a teacher when I would do evaluation. So I just thought that would be an interesting component because we have the students who are equipped, and so we always talk about how great our students are. I really think that they could give some honest feedback, because you can get feedback from your peers and you can look at yourself, but you need to hear it from the students you're actually teaching. Is there something that I could have done different? From a student's perspective, just throwing it out.
And many of our teachers do collect student surveys and feedback. As far as it being built within the evaluation system itself to determine highly effective, we're just not there yet.
Yeah. And I wouldn't probably even use it for that, but just for, but even though teachers do it, I think that as an administrative team, I can keep all my evaluations to myself and won't let you know how poorly I would definitely let you know how great I've done, but I wouldn't let you know how poorly I've done. But just as a team or someone being able to just look at that and saying, have you ever considered this?
360-degree evaluation system is what that is.
Thank you, Dr. McCall. Board, may I have a motion to approve the staff evaluation plan?
I move that we accept the staff evaluation plan.
In a second,
I'll second it.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCall.
Now reach the public comment on non-agenda or informational items. We have two speakers. First one is Emily Hunt, and she will be speaking on safe storage reminders.
I'm sorry, what is she speaking on?
Safe
Safe
storage
storage.
reminders.
Good evening, Board and Dr. McCall. Six kids have brought guns to schools in Indiana since school started this year. It's been 2 weeks. I'm not going to stand here and recite all of the facts about kids and guns and all the names of the children we've already lost, because you know them all. Just like you already know 90% of school shooters who are minors get their guns from home. And you already know that access to a gun exponentially increases the success of child suicide. And you already know that both of those are the leading causes of death for our kids. And just like you already know, a simple reminder about safe storage could change all that. But not one of you, and I'm talking to the board, has responded to my emails over the last 7 months. Not one of you has responded to my requests for safe storage distribution or why you won't take this simple step to protect our kids. Is there an agreement between you guys about responding to parents? Is there an agreement that you won't respond individually? Is your allegiance to each other greater than your allegiance to my student safety? Dr. McCall, you just mentioned and talked about schools, about the tools we have to affect change. Here's one. But you've said you won't. You've said that you will not distribute safe storage reminders, despite the state saying this information is critical to the safety of our students. You won't get a head start on it. This week I got to go to my first graders' parent night, and I got to hear about and meet her teacher and hear about all the great things she does in class, and I got to hear about lockdown drills. And I heard about how my 6-year-old will be told this is a drill, and then she'll have the lights turned out, all the lights in her classroom turned off, and she'll be guided to the corner of each classroom to hide from somebody in that school who's making bad decisions. And she'll hide there and she'll wait until someone comes by and knocks on that door and jiggles that handle, and she's got to stay as quiet as she can.
30 seconds.
Her teacher told us if anything happens, not to expect her to come home. Her teacher told us if anything happens, not to expect her teacher to come home because she'll put herself between my child and the shooter. I want to know why my emails are being ignored. I want to know why there isn't a response. I want to know why the board won't get a head start on what will be required next year and pass out safe storage reminders. I want a board who's as brave as our teachers, and I want a board who's as brave as our students who stand up here during their summer vacation and ask you and tell you that they don't feel safe. And I want a board that's as brave as my 6-year-old. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt.
And Brian Williams.
First of all, I'd like to say, Mayor Costas, I am so glad that you found your little guy on your computer screen. I'm quite relieved now. But seriously, I just wanted to second what Ms. Hunt has just expressed about safe storage of guns, of firearms. And I would second her call that Valparaiso Community Schools gets out ahead of the state and is a leader in distributing materials, which, the way I understand this law, will come online or will be, the law says that schools will distribute safe storage materials in the coming year. They just need to get the materials ready, and that's the way I understand the law. If I'm wrong, excuse me. And it's my understanding that Ms. Hunt, who I understand for about 3 or 4 years has been working for or working with a program called Be Smart, which is all about advocating for safe storage of firearms. It's my understanding that she has offered to the VCS materials that can be distributed. And I would just like to second that and encourage you to take her up on that offer and get out ahead of the state. Why not be a leader? I spoke to you a couple months ago about gun violence in the schools and the potential for more of that, and how I was concerned about that. And I don't want to get into politics of it all, but I encouraged you all to speak about this topic, and safe storage of firearms, discussing that, seems to me a very logical, reasonable thing to do. So I would just encourage you to consider doing that. I would encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Dr. McCall?
Oh, I think I'll take some of my superintendent comment time to address the comments on safe storage. As I've indicated to Ms. Hunt during our email conversations, the law that was referenced speaks specifically and tasks the IDOE to work with the Indiana State Police, the public safety experts, in order to develop the materials for distribution to the schools, who will then disseminate it to their constituents. This is in line with what we practice in regard to relying on our community partners, our public safety experts, the local police and sheriff department, as well as our public health experts, the Porter County Health Department, in order to vet, develop materials that would be then disseminated as part of a multi-pronged approach for communication for the greater good within our community. It is not that we are reluctant to do so. It is that we recognize the authority vested in those agencies to develop appropriate materials for distribution to the public, and we will not supersede that authority that's been vested through the legislation. We look forward to seeing what those materials look like and following the law in the dissemination of those materials through their development. And so that summarizes our conversation that we've had on email. Other than that, we've been in school now. This is our 6th day, and 2 days of oppressive heat has not dampened the spirits in regard to the initial momentum. The tenor throughout the district, I've been in all the buildings. spoken to many kids, excited kindergartners, and even excited high schoolers, believe it or not. Happy to be back. Plenty of handshakes and hugs going around. And really, the tenor is that it's been a smooth start overall, and that there's initial momentum. We're excited to see the year progress. I think we're going to build upon strong foundations as we do, and in the spirit, as I echoed in the staff evaluation plan, that spirit of continuous improvement for our programming, for our students, and for our community. So, that concludes superintendent comments.
All right. Board, any other comments?
I will just say, I echo Dr. McCall in the great school year. I look forward to going out when the school year starts, and I wish I could get to all the schools, but I cannot get them in my schedule. But I was pleased to see Memorial just tucked away. I enjoyed my time there. I also met a couple janitorial staff who had their uniforms on, and I was like, that looks really nice. And lastly, regarding gun safety, I don't often, I don't really care to ignore emails. I really just trust that guidance is given. And I will say that everything that Dr. McCall shared tonight is everything that I asked, because I was like, why aren't we moving in this discussion? This seems something that we should do. And the feedback that he gave tonight was exactly what he had given that had already been shared. So it is not my practice. It is difficult, I say, sitting on the school board, because I want to respond to everything. Even during the mass time that I was here, I was like, I want to say something. But what I've learned, not just sitting here, but everywhere I sit, no matter what we do, no matter what we say, will we make everyone happy? But there are some things that just seems like they make sense. And that being one of them. Even not speaking out about the students who proudly spoke up and walked out of class last school year. Very proud of them, because I was always that student that walked out when there was a situation going on. And we teach our students, we teach our children to have a voice and to speak up. And that's what I teach my children. And that's even hard for my son in this season. But I think it's important as parents that we allow our children to speak up, and until they can speak up for themselves, that we be that example. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we're going to adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you so much for attending. You guys have a